All right, well, welcome. Thank you, everyone. My name is Ryan Huggins. My call sign is KI6BTY. Thank you. Thank you. And today I'm going to talk to you about Meshtastic. And this is a map that I pulled a couple days ago of the worldwide deployment of Meshtastic that that are at least reporting into some server somewhere. Okay, why is this not refreshing? Okay, there we go. There's a delay. Okay. So tonight we're going to talk. Yeah, I'm old school. I like to have agendas and topics and stuff. So we're going to talk a little about LoRa, and I'll talk, which is what Meshtastic is built upon. We'll talk a little bit about 101 on mesh networking. We'll talk about Meshtastic and its use cases and the SoCal Mesh group. As we wait for the screen slide to go. Yes. Well, I'm tethered through my phone, through my VPN to my house, and then to Zoom. So, yeah. So, yeah, no, yeah. So, a brief history of LoRa. Or LoRa. I'm not sure what the pronunciation is actually, but we'll talk a little bit about how it came about, what it's used for, and some examples of what it's used for. There's, field sensors is kind of where it started with, and your smart meters is really where it got its start from. Amazon Sidewalk uses it. They just came out with an integrated sensor for LoRa for measuring the amount of moisture in the ground. So you can use that for remotely monitoring your plants while they're growing. So we'll get into that. So, yeah. So LoRa, this was created in 2009 by a couple of Frenchmen, Nicolas Sornin and Olivier, I want to say seller because I'm a real estate broker, but I'm sure it's pronounced differently in France. But so they were targeting the metering industry that we all have our nice new fancy smart meters that they put on all of our houses for our utilities, for our gas and our electric and our water. So that's what they were targeting at there. To do this, they created a company called Cycleo and LoRa, which is the underlying technology. It uses a chirp spread spectrum modulation technology. It was widely in use already in the maritime industry and in aviation. And as luck would have it, Semtech bought them in May of 2012. And they are the same Semtech that is headquartered in Camarillo, right next to Institutional. So that's a nice local company. And that's actually, the left is Nicholas and the right is Olivier, the founders there. So where does LoRa sit in the RF spectrum? And source is a link, so that's not showing there, but it sits right here. It works in the 900 megahertz range, so it sits right over here in the UHF radio spectrum here. And a slide for coming up next. Yes. So the OSI model. Stu and I are probably the only people in here who really hate these. Yeah. So if few of us anyone who's ever dealt with networking, yeah, we have a hate relationship with this model. This pretty much is the 7-layer dip of how data communication works, all the way from the physical layer up through application, which is going to be your web browsers and stuff. But this is where Meshtastic kind of lives here. So LoRa, they have this down in the physical, the lowest of the layers. Built upon that is Meshtastic and LoRa WAN, which is another thing that you can build on top of LoRa. And right at the very top, this is Meshtastic, where it falls in the reference model. So, I mentioned I have a master's in computer science, so I did IT professionally for a number of years, so I have to have a nerdy slide in there. So what is mesh networking? Well, a traditional network like your home computer network, they're basically like a one-to-one network. It's similar of having a directed net or going through Bozo to talk to something. It's direct. So your computer, like I want to go to start page, do some searching. I'm hitting it, my DNS server. I'm hitting my my internet gateways. I'm going out. I'm hitting a couple different systems until I get to the one that's that's the website I want to go to. And the downside of that is that if any one of those systems is down, if my gateway's down, if my ISP is, my my FiOS, my Spectrum is down, I'm out. I can't communicate with anyone. Mesh networking, these are your one-to-many relation networks. So it's like a simplex on VHF, UHF, or HF in general. It's if we're all chatting, if Daphne and Martin and myself were all chatting, and all of a sudden my radio goes down, they can still carry on the conversation without. There's no one single link. That's one single point of failure in a mesh network. If anyone has gone on, we'll talk about that later. But they're getting kind of pretty popular in online circles as well. So Meshtastic, so low-array, it stands for low power, long range. It uses very little power, transmits around, I think I talked about a little bit, down there. It's about 1 watt in the US, about half a watt in the EU, and they have some very long range. The longest transmission recorded was over 200 miles. It was summit to summit, but it's very good range for. And that was in Europe, so half a watt. So that's pretty darn impressive in my book. It takes advantage of the ISM band, it stands for the Industrial Scientific Medical Band. This is an unlicensed spectrum, part of the spectrum. So that means is you can hand these out to anyone. You don't have to go through the FCC or the equivalents in other countries to get the permission slip to be able to use this like you do with our ham radios. I've covered the bandwidth, the power there. So fancy words here, decentralized encrypted mesh network. That's what Meshtastic really is. So decentralized, that's back to your, no single point of failure. If you're thinking like, Reddit, Twitter, Facebook, right? Those all are a single point of failure. If if Cloudflare goes down again and you can't get to, your social media sites, that's down completely. So this one, those are what your centralized systems with your single points of failure. Decentralized, that's like Mastodon, which I know several of us have here. There's I think Lemmy's equivalent for Reddit. There's others for like Invictus for YouTube. So there's other decentralized ones out there, and the mesh by default is encrypted. If you tell them you're a ham radio operator, there's a little checkbox you can check to say I'm a ham, and they take your word for it. They give you more output power, but they take away your ability to encrypt the messages. And I don't know of any hams in any of the groups that opt for that, because the big selling feature is the encryption, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Again, it is license free, it's highly configurable, and it is blazing fast at 0.18 kilobits per second to a whopping 21.88 kilobits per second. So I think my 1200 baud modem back in the 90s would run circles around it. Most common speed out here in the US is 1.07 kilobits per second. So blazing fast, right? Snails can outrun the message, but it works. So uses. So there's a lot of uses for Meshtastic. Currently, these are some of the current uses. One of the biggest ones is festivals. Anytime where Burning Man and DEF CON, they both make custom firmwares that you can use that have specific channels built in and special settings pre-done, but they're put out by the official organizers, and you can use them to communicate with other people at that festival. Burning Man, I think we all probably have heard of that one before. That's a big party in the desert. DEF CON's a computer security conference. You get lots of people together. There's either no cell phone service like in the Burning Man scenario, or DEF CON is just going to overload the networks. And there's a great example I read on Reddit where a local festival. So this county in Virginia somewhere, they have a summer concert series every year in a park. The park has no cell phone service, none. So they bring in the cows, not the kind that you fetch up, they fetch sorry, the they have in Monty Python when they're throwing over the wall at King Arthur, fechez la vache, not that kind. But so the portable cell towers on wheels, the cellular on wheels, COWs, those get overloaded just from a couple hundred people being in the park, not everyone using them at the same time. So there's one story where husband was staying back with the kids, saving the spot. Wife went to the concession line because she was hungry. Husband didn't want anything, and then later on changed his mind, got his mesh, his phone, cell phone didn't work, got the mesh, said, "Hey, honey, can you bring me back a hot dog and a beer?" And she got the message and was able to bring him the food. So that's just a common kind of almost that's worth it right there to get your beer. Yes, definitely. So another use is tracking. So they have, I'll show you a picture in a little bit. There's tracker units that they make specifically for this. And people put them on their dogs when they go out hiking and they let their dogs roam free. And they're able to track the dog when, it's off leash and the dog goes after a rabbit or a squirrel or something and runs a couple miles, they're able to track it and find where it is. And last time I checked, the FCC did not issue licenses to animals. So that's something that this can do that ham radio cannot. And it's also good. Another use is SAR teams, so search and rescue teams. It does have integration with SAR Topo, which is a topographical mapping system that some SAR teams use for tracking their team members, where they're at and how they're going through the mountainous regions. And it's also good for tracking family, tracking vehicles, tracking packages. This here, what you see on the screen here, this is ATAC. This is, in the civilian world, it is the Android Team Awareness Kit. In the military world, it's the Android Tactical Assault Kit. And what it does, it's a program for Android, and it is one of the slickest things I've seen. It's, if you're familiar with WinTAC or just TAC in general, some first responder agencies use this for their CAD, for their computer-aided dispatch, and they have it highly integrated with all their teams. Apple just released a server for so that you can finally get integration with Meshtastic and Apple. They had it for Android for years, just like most other things. I'm an Android guy as well. So this thing, they have examples of going into, or use cases where you go into, say, North Carolina, the Carolinas after the floods wiped out everything. Right? There's no street signs, there's no houses left. You can't, everything looks, you can't tell what's what. And you can go through here. You have the maps on your phone from the Android. You can use the Meshtastic to be able to send waypoints back to the central server over the radio. And you can say, okay, I'm in this area here, it's clear, or you can do what's called a medvac, which says, okay, we have a wounded person here, critical, we need a medical evac now, or they're moderately injured, they can you can send someone at your leisure. So that's a really nice use case for it. Sensors, talked a little bit about this before with the sensors in the ground for measuring water content in the moisture, soil moisture. There's temperature sensors, air quality sensors. In our SoCal Mesh group, we have it set up for earthquake sensors as well. We have tie-ins with the basically like the public alert things that come out over the cell phones for bad weather warnings, and it's the public address system that they use now, and it's tied into rebroadcast that. So there's a lot of things you can do with it. Obviously, off-grid, grid downs communications, really good for that. ACS and Aries groups. So this is where it's really interesting use. San Diego, one of the guys who's really big into the SoCal Mesh area. He climbs towers. He runs the antenna systems down there. He's kind of like their Rob Hansen as well, where he's kind of like the head guy for ACS down there. He's very involved with Meshtastic. He's got that kind of working into their setup there. Jason came for ACK, just had a video out where they were interviewing a group an ACS group in Tampa that was importing that, and thank you for sending that to me. And so that's a use there. I think from what I remember, don't quote me on this, but LA DCS or LA Aries is also using it. And locally, one of the Mormon Temple disaster groups is using it as well. They have a weekly night on net on Wednesday, and they use this as part of their net. At least they did a year or so ago. And what's really nice about it too, from the off-grid grid down scenario, is say we're out, we're activating something, we're searching something, we're on our HF radios. There's something we want to say that's confidential, or PII or PHI, which we protect information. We can't say that over the public airwaves because and so what's nice about this is because it's encrypted and you can set up individual talk channels for your group.
All I ever saw him wear was slippers. Where do you get those working?
ACS. And you use this, it piggybacks on the public network. It has its own 256-bit AES encryption key on it, super secure, only the government can break it. And you can send this information. You can say, we've got patient John Doe here, needs a critical transfer to facility X. Or you can use it, where, you can have maybe future plans transmitted over it that you don't want to necessarily broadcast out over the airwaves, or you want to send a waypoint location to someone and say, go to this location, but you don't want to have to tie up the repeater because maybe it's running on battery. You can use this to send it and go on the repeater and say, hey, check your attention to your Meshtastic device. So those are some really good uses for that. Now let's talk about the channels. So this is what one of my setups is here. This is the default long fast. So this is the one that all the devices come with when you get them straight out of the box. And that is encrypted with a shared, very weak key. So it's not really that encrypted. That's why it has you can't see it from back there, but it's a yellow kind of half open padlock. And these are ones I created here. So this is my TAC channel. And then this one, if you're familiar with S2 Underground on YouTube, he's an Intel guy. He has the Ghost Mesh as part of his setup. And this is his mesh setup here with his encryption key. So you can send a message on that one. I can send a message on my own tactical channel that only my devices have, or I can send one on the long fast, the party line, if you will, and you say, hey, is anyone on? Is everyone okay? What's going on? Yes. Right. Yeah, no audio on these. There is a radio company out there. I forget who. Excuse me 1 second while I get a drink. But for $900 a radio with, and this is for 2 radios with a server, they somehow figured out how to get Meshtastic and Lore to do voice, and they will sell you a very, very expensive radio that will only work with other people who have $1,000 to drop on a radio. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't expect it to. But yeah, for $900, there's a lot more things I could buy for $900 in the radio world than an HT. Now, one of the nice things about Meshtastic is the apps for programs for your phone or your computer. They have a lot of traditional networking abilities. So this is a trace route, which for anyone who doesn't know, networking, what a trace route is I say I want to talk to Bob back there, but to get to Bob, I have to talk to Mike. I have to talk to Johnny, and then he can relay it to Bob. And so that's what a trace route is. It just shows you all the hops along the way. So for me to get from my home station up here, BTY3, down to this guy, Rad3 over here, who's somewhere over by Los Robles. I went through some, unlisted Meshtastic node here, rad base, and then rad 3. So that was a 3-hop there. And then to get from, it's interesting for him to get back to me, which is this blue line here. He had to go through 4 different hops to get to me. So for some reason, he had to go to his base. His base heard this 27C better than it heard the 9FF5. But then it talked to that one, and then it got to me. So it took one longer step to get back to me than it took me to get to him. And that is pretty common. So something's happening here. It does not do, you have to send out a command to make it do that. So hopefully it's still working because I lost my, left the meeting somehow. Okay. Oh, excuse me while I get that fixed. Yeah. All right, so I'm still at least connected. That's good. Back. Share my screen. All right, well, and of course, this thing's back. That's showing up for everyone, or? Let's see. Yep. Yeah, you may have to read off me or something. There we go. Oh. Okay, it's not showing up there. Okay, go. Okay. Okay, there we go. I have done that more times than I care to count or admit. I'm fully maxed out, but I'm just, I was trying to get rid of the, well, I think that's on your side there, the video screen. Okay. Well, isn't technology great? Yeah, see, that's old. Yeah, tell me about it. Well, the lag is, okay. Well, this is probably going to move around a bunch, but a lot of us are familiar with, we've all heard Arden net. So Meshtastic compared to Arden, right? Meshtastic is like this, well, it's going to take a while. The back and forth on this thing when I was trying to fix it. So, wow. I clicked that about 2 minutes ago. So, hey, technology brand. Gotta get some better Wi-Fi in here. Okay, so Meshtastic is kind of like these postal trucks. They get from point A to B, but they're god awfully ugly and they're slow. They're low speed, high drag. They're not. It's slow. It's basically text and GPS location formats, but it does have a very low entry cost. This unit here, which I'll pass around, This one cost me about 30 bucks to get in. And if you want to see what the technology looks like, that's what it looks like on the inside. And this one here, which I'll also pass around, this is my portable one that I take with me when I travel. This one costs about $90. So very low cost of entry. And these things are very tinker friendly. A lot of these you can swap out for, you can buy better antennas. You can build your own. So this one I'll pass around here. This one is a DIY that I put in a box back when I was trying to do a Meshtastic combo with a ADS-B receiver on a computer on a solar mounted way up on a hill and running off Wi-Fi. Very, very didn't work out well. But very tinker friendly. It's meant to be played with, meant to be experimented with. Arden, it's fast. It's like my other car that I wish I had, the Murcielago there. That one, it works at the in the megabits and 144 megabits, 800 megabits on the 5 gigahertz networks. It's lightning fast. You can send files, you can send videos, you can do a lot more with it. You can even have voice over IP, voice calls on it. Entry cost, it's a little bit more. You need specialized hardware. You need, higher quality network antennas. You need special routers. You need, a little bit more costly. You have to flash them with some special firmware. So it's a little bit more difficult to get set up and running. And it's a little bit more directional, where mesh is omnidirectional for the most part. And whereas Arden is tinker friendly, I don't think it's, from my limited knowledge of Arden, I don't think it's as tinker friendly as Meshtastic is, especially because if you break something on Meshtastic, you're out 30 bucks, right? Versus a couple hundred on Arden. You get one of the nice, outdoor capable ubiquity access points that are about 300 bucks to start. So now, how does Meshtastic work and send us messages? Well, when the screen changes, there we go. It uses something called managed flooding. And this is actually a new thing. It used to just do flooding. So, but they put some water controls in there. So, managed flooding, it's kind of like not at all what we had this last, couple of days here. What flooding is basically when I send a message, it went out to everyone. And it kept going out until there's a hop count. So you set a limit on how many times it can go out. Max is 7. As many times it can be repeated. So I send mine, Martin picks it up, sends it, decrements the hop counter by 1. And then once it hits 0, no one else sends it out. Managed flooding, so that works when you have small little 20, 30 node networks. What they found from DEF CON and Burning Man was when you get larger, 50, 100 person networks going, or was it Josh Ham Radio Crash Course guy? He played with this at one of the ham conventions a couple of years ago. And day 2, day 3, it crashed because everyone started using it and one person had it misconfigured and took down the whole network. So managed flooding was developed so that what it does now is I send a message, Keith's node hears it, it waits a tick before resending it to see if anyone else is sending it. If it hears it coming from someone else, it does not resend it. And it has there's different types of nodes. There's repeater nodes, which are more like your they're called router nodes. They're more like repeaters, and at least in a ham radio sense. And those have a higher priority to retransmit a message because those are typically nodes that you have up on like Rasno Peak, which there is one up there, or near up there, called RASN, Rasno. And so that one, those nodes will have a higher priority to retransmit the message they hear because they have a more advantageous location. And so some sample devices coming up next. So these are some sample devices. So this one is sold by Rockland, and this is basically this piece here with a flat pillow pack battery, which is this here, which I do not recommend using, and it's connected to a solar node. It has this antenna. Guess where I bought this antenna from? And this one is meant to go on a side of a house, up on a pole somewhere. People can sometimes leave these in parks, on signposts, up in trees to further the mesh network. Let's just say that's not the way they should be doing it. But pillow packs, for those who don't know, there's basically two types of batteries. There's a flat pillow pack and your 18650s, which are in the project box there, which look like your AA's. The pillow packs have a bad habit of overheating and exploding and causing fires. So yeah, exactly what you want to have in your attic, connected 24/7 to a power supply. So needless to say that the one that's going around that's open for looking at, that used to be in my attic, and the battery was disconnected from that. What the heck? Yeah, it's reconnecting. At least it reconnected itself. And I think it's probably just more of a lag issue. Lag is frag, right? Is it sharing? Yeah, we really need to get guest wireless here. Excellent. Yay. Okay, good. So for those following along at home, the upper left-hand corner of your screen is going to be that solar node I was talking about. To the right of that, the little black node, that one, that's probably about a $30, $40 node pre-built that you can just buy online. A lot of people like those two green ones I was passing around, those I bought off of Etsy. The white one I bought off of Rockland, and I'll talk some of these other ones here. But so this one here, under the word devices, that is the SenseCap tracker. That's the one that is designed to be used for tracking animals, or packages, right? Or just have it on your cars or something like that, or when you're hiking up a hill or going on a de-expedition or a soda activation. It's really good power on it. It can get out a little bit further, a little bit easier than some of the other ones, and it's got a really good GPS in it. The one in the upper right, this is a Lilyco T-Deck, or as I call it, the Meshberry, because it looks like a BlackBerry and runs mesh. I have that up. That's my one I have in my attic right now, because that model can also do Wi-Fi. So I can actually connect to it from my phone anywhere in the world and be part of my mesh back home. Now, the lower left corner for those following at home, this is the 4631, I believe, rack board, which you can get from Rockland or Amazon. That's what's in that project box that's floating around. That's what that white one I have floating around is based on as well. The bottom two here, the middle and the right, these are different solar nodes that are designed more for designed by third parties, individual companies that go out and make this stuff. I think the middle one is Rockland. The one on the right here is FlashUth, the two antennas. That's by AltaVox. That's about $230 on the right. The one in the center is around 150 to 180, I believe. And they're solar nodes. They're with a couple 18650 batteries. They have Bluetooth antennas, so you can control them from a distance or access them from a distance. And these are meant more to be more repeater nodes. So nodes that would not necessarily be used on a daily basis directly by you. This is something that you would have like one of those nodes floating around, or you know, one of like this one of the this black one here with the screen, or the Meshberry. This would be inside your house. It would connect to one of these, and that would get you out to the greater mesh. Now, downsides. I touched on some of these already, but there are, you know, once you get to large scale networks like we have in Southern California with several hundred nodes, or Bay Area or Dallas, Fort Worth area, or Austin area has this as well, and New York City also has issues with large networks. They just get too many people talking at the same time on the same frequency. It's like you know, you go out to a rare de-expedition and you're trying to, you know, hear the 500 people calling you, right? It's hard. So there's that. And just because you can hear them does not mean they can hear you. So there's the hop count issues, right? So when I remember I showed that trace route where I got 3 pings, you know, 3 hops to get to the guy, but he got 4 to get to me. If he's set with a maximum communication of 3 hops before his message dies off, I will never see it because I'm 4 away from him. I get a lot of ones that are coming from downtown LA, Glendale, Yorba Linda. There are 7 hops that are hitting me. I can't even hit them on a trace route back because 7's the max and I'm 8 or 9 away on the return trip. Misconfigured nodes. This is a big one. So you have someone who says, hey, I should be a router node because I think that's what I should be because I, you know, took a class in networks once and it makes sense from a networking standpoint. Well, something like that set in a punch bowl like Oak Park, messages are going to get in. That node has a higher priority to get the messages out, but it can't connect to anyone because it's in a dead zone. So something like that takes out your network. Or that node that showed up to Hamvention that flooded the network and took the whole network down for pretty much the entire rest of the event, the expo, that's another misconfigured node problem. Outdated nodes. They update the firmware every couple of days. There's major revisions that make significant changes. Increase change from flooded to managed flooding message formats, or increase the encryption, or change how messages are even routed. An outdated node, that can cause problems because they're not up to the latest specs. They can't necessarily send out the messages anymore. So there's problems with that. There's a lot of setup issues. So if you want to get beyond what's, you know, how it comes out of the box, it can get confusing there. And the wild, wild west, you're not the boss of me mentality. The SoCal Mesh has an optional, keyword there, optional best practices guide on how you set up your mesh nodes. Within 48 hours of that coming out, someone went on there and said, you can't make me do this. This is my own thing. You know, I paid my own money for this. Blah, blah, blah. Tirade, rant. You're not the boss of me is how it ended. And I don't think he ever got on with the program. So, talking about all the different configuration options. This is just the type of client you're using. This is the range and speed you're looking for. This is what type of messages you want to rebroadcast. I don't even understand half this stuff. And some of the stuff is new within the last major revision. So if you're not on the latest revision, you don't get all this stuff. Now, some of my devices, so you've seen the project box node over there. This is my Meshberry that I built from a kit. That was fun. That one's actually hooked up to one of my external antennas. And you're thinking, hey, Ryan, are you happy with that? Well, there's an amp for that. right? If you see that in the project box, that's an amp that I bought off of oh, Ali AliExpress, I think. One of those came from China, gift wrapped as a birthday present. That's to avoid taxes, right? It's a 900 megahertz filter underneath there, and it gets me it gets me up to like 5 watts, which is the max you can get with the ISM band as a non-ham radio operator. So, or 4 watts with that. So yeah, there's an amp for that. And so I wish I had access to this picture last time I talked with you guys, but this is my ADS-B antenna here, and this is my mesh antenna here. It's got about a 10 dBi gain. It's on the top of my roof, single-story house, running, LMR 400 cables because it's a 30-foot run, very low power, a lot of, high chance for signal loss. But that's how my setup is on the outside of the house. So ADS-B, that's the airplane tracking. Yeah. So this is a screenshot I took on February 8th when I started working on this presentation about 9:50 in the morning from the Meshtastic app on my phone. These are, sorry, no, this is actually from Liam Cottle's. This is one of the Mesh websites, map websites. So all these blue dots are mesh nodes in the Ventura to Hesperia to Huntington Beach area and up to the Santa Clarita that are configured to report their location to the mesh. You don't have to do that. There's a lot more than just my node and this guy's node in Thousand Oaks, for example. The green ones are ones that are set up to forward messages that they receive to a web server so you can track them and report on them or report that these nodes to the map. So you kind of see how far your messages are getting. Zoom out a little bit. This is a cluster of Southern California is a cluster, so it's a driving, but this is a clustered map of them. So down here by San Diego, there's 86 nodes. You get up to like Central LA is 49, 35 out in Irvine. So this is just kind of a cluster, grouping of different nodes, showing where they are, 13 in Temecula. And this is what my node in my house is seeing. So I'm seeing down to the border, and I'm seeing 22 nodes in the Thousand Oaks area. I have 3 out in Oxnard, 45 in the valley, and then zoomed in. Can't really see me, but I'm right over here. I can't see my name there, but I'm right over there. Now these are just the ones that I'm seeing out to Oxnard and Ventura. Some of the VCARC guys. I think this is one of the VCARC guys out there. And that's just what I'm seeing from my node with my external antenna. Now, I don't know about you, but I love N3FJP's logging tools. And they came out with Mesh Sense, which is a program that they designed to work with the Meshtastic system. Again, very tinker friendly, right? So this is just the ones that Mesh Map is telling me that my nodes are seeing. So they don't always report the same stuff. But look who we have here, K6MDU. Hi, Martin. There's your node there showing up in my node list. And these lines are, so the solid blue lines are what Mesh Sense says are direct connections. So I'm directly connected to this one here on the border of LA and Ventura counties, probably Lake Sherwood area, and out to one here in Oxnard. So with the height gain from here to Oxnard or the drop in elevation, that actually impresses me, but I'm not sure. Again, I kind of question some of these things, right? But if it's true, that's pretty nice. So this is coming up next is their map. So these are some direct connections here in LA, but this is what the overall global Meshtastic map is showing. So the last one was just what the map on my computer was showing. This is what the website meshsense.affirmatech.com will show you. And there I am over there, BTY3. And there's, all down San Clemente is like on this screen. But there's a lot of them. And it's going to do a live demo of MeshSense. And yeah, the two most frightening words in the presentation's live demo. Just ask Bill Gates with Windows 98. And I did call on St. Dogbert here to help me with this demo, but well, we've seen the network issues I'm having, so I'm not going to try it now. But afterwards, I can show you kind of what I can show it on my computer. I'm VPN'd into my home network, so I can access my home node and access that through MeshSense there. But so the white node that you see floating around with the aftermarket antenna, that one I take with me on travel. So this one here was about 2 weeks ago in Monterey. So oddly enough, I'm down here at the southernmost point on this map here on this, for those following along at home, this is the left image here. And I was seeing stuff all the way up to Richmond and Berkeley from down here in Monterey. So very interesting range. And that was from a hotel room overlooking the bay. So hotel rooms typically are not great for reception, but it worked. This one here is from last April in Sacramento. So I'm up here with these 23 nodes in Sacramento, and I'm seeing down to San Jose. So good range. Yeah, a lot of these are relays. So this could be a 5-hop or a 6-hop connection that I'm seeing from San Jose or to Sacramento, but still in theory I could reach that ZMBS one down there in San Jose. So that's pretty neat. And then the one on the right here is from September when I was down in Chula Vista the day before I gave the DSP talk. So this one was with me on the drive down, but it stayed in a hotel and seeing nodes from the hotel all the way up in the Marine Corps Pendleton up here in that area in Lemon Grove, La Mesa. This is an area that zoomed out had close to 40 different nodes just reporting onto the map from there. So and these nodes actually go into Tijuana and Mexico. The guy who does the professional antenna maintenance and installations, he has contracts on both sides of the border and puts them up there. So SoCal Mesh, it's basically a club of like-minded mesh fans who are looking to build a larger resilient messaging system. And it's basically a ham club for Meshtastic, and it's on Discord. So who makes up the group? Well, obviously myself. There's hams, there's non-hams, there's people in MCOM, there's RF engineers, there's tower climbers. When I was working on this over Valentine's Day weekend, I logged onto our Discord server. There's 350 online members at that time. And anytime there's probably more offline than online on any server. So 350 members plus online. That's a very large community. So how does it grow? Well, we have easily deployable nodes. I remember one time Houston found one up on Simi Hills. When he's up on a hike and he sends a message to our group and says, hey, does anyone know what this weird box is? Right? And I look at it and go, oh, I know exactly what that is. That's a Meshtastic node. That's this one here. Here's here's the hexadecimal code for it, right? So I knew that was someone just easily deployed it on a hike, which you shouldn't do because that's littering, but people do that. People, own or maintain towers, put them up. There's one on or near Rasno. People work with buildings that they own or manage or rent in and get them put up on buildings. They go look for places and they work with, they might go to a downtown LA high rise and say, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what it's for. Can I put this up in your building? It won't cost you anything. You don't have to worry. You'll never see me again. Okay. Some people say yes. What does the SoCal Mesh use it for? Well, emergency alerts, earthquake notifications, weather alerts. Any of us remember BBSs from back in the dial-up days? Well, they're back. Ham radio has BBSs, and so does Meshtastic. Meshtastic, you're not playing, Legend of the Red Dragon or Trade Wars for hours and hours on end. But getting yelled at, yeah, never mind. But yeah, so that you are exchanging messages. So you're able to set up, do a group post and set up a message that people can log on and see. It's kind of like our WinLink and our that we're using here, sending the messages over a packet to the central nodes for ACS. It's just another version of that. The tech prepper Gaston out of Arizona, he's big on BBSs over HF. Other people are big on BBSs on Meshtastic. And there's a lot of experimentation going on with different configurations, different modes. They have meetups a couple times a year at a month, a couple times a month at different maker spaces in LA and down into San Diego. And they just get together and hack out a new Meshtastic type setup. It's pretty interesting. Now, as you may remember, I said Meshtastic was built upon LoRa. Well, that's the base, the backbone of it. Well, there's other systems that are built upon that too. So there's Reticulum, which is another one. There's MeshCore, which is an improved version of Meshtastic that does routing in a different way and a little bit more resilient for larger scale networks. And I know a couple members in the club are playing with that one now. And in our club here, CVARC are playing with MeshCore now. And the SoCal Mesh group is getting pretty heavily involved in that as well. And then I heard mentioned recently in one of the club meetings or ACS meetings or one of our email chains, Halo. I think Paul was working on something with the repeaters sites on that, and that's something that's built on LoRa as well that they're using there too. So a lot of different things you can do. Different resources. So it's just a list of different sites you can go to for more information. So there's meshtastic.org. This one is your main site for getting more information on Meshtastic, downloading the firmware. They have links to lens fell off. They have links to resellers and retailers where you can buy the parts or the ready-made systems for it. SoCal Mesh, this is their website down here, socalmesh.org. This long link is our Discord server. Rockland and Altavox, Etsy, and Amazon are all places you can go and buy products from. And of course, being formerly risk management adjacent, my little asterisk, these are third-party for-profit corporations. I have no relation or affiliation with them, but I may or may not have purchased from them in the past, and no warranty expressly given or implied, caveat emptor. CYA, gotta love that in real estate. Our disclosures are about 50 pages long for a transaction. So that's just the base package. So Liam Cottle, that's a gentleman out of Australia who's big into mesh, and he's developed some technology around it, and including the map that I showed you with all the different nodes on it. And that's his website for his map. There's another map, which is the one that I used on the front screen, the worldwide one with the black background. That's meshmap.net. MeshSense, unfortunately, that one, I'd gone to that website as well as the next website, and so it unfortunately doesn't show up on a white background here on the screen. But that is meshsense.affirmatech.com. And then meshtastic.org, they have a wonderful site planner that you punch in your lat, your long, your elevation, what the basic settings you're going to be using are, how much power, that kind of thing. Click a button and it gives you a beautiful heat map of where you can expect to have good quality propagation, low propagation, poor propagation, or no propagation at all. I've run it on my house after the, one of the things you can do is you can do range tests with this thing. You can have a stationary node that broadcasts a ping every couple seconds, and your receiving node that you take and travel around receives it and tracks the GPS location of where it hears it. And when I did this, I found I got, from where I'm at over kind of by the Thousand Oaks Library, I got south of my location pretty well, and I got into the Westlake Shopping Center over there by Sharky's and Wild Fork over there, Westlake and TO Will, kind of a 40, yeah, 45 down to the right. But to the north of me, forget it. To the west of me, forget it. Which, oddly enough, kind of maps my VHF UHF 2-meter reception anyways, right? On Simplex Net, I can't reach the sheriff station from my house. I'm lucky to reach TOEOC from my house. I can't reach anyone else. I can get, Houston when he's on Triunfo Canyon, but I can't reach Daphne, who's west of me, right? So that's a pretty good one. You could probably use that, with a grain of salt for your, 2-meter planning as well. And again, this is the kind of the granddaddy site of them all for learning about low-array. That is Semtech, who again are the proud owners of the technology. And any questions? Yes. Yeah, so I don't think it's being used for that out here. Typically, it's going to be on, well, out here it's a 900 band. In Europe, it's on the 400 range. So Europe is going to have that more. That's where their bands are and they're licensed to use it there. We're licensed in the 900 spectrum. Yeah, there's parts are 860, parts are 460-ish. So it depends on which part of Europe you're in. But yeah, so that is, and yes, KK6BTY, we will respond to his question as well. So yeah, the question was, is anyone using this on 70 centimeters, the 440 band? And that was the answer given there. But yes, and yes, yeah. So the question was, if you're in a location where you cannot reach another node, are you basically out of luck? And the answer to that is yes. I had a message a couple of months ago from someone who was actually over a couple blocks from me, over by a couple of our other hams in our club, and over by the soccer fields from my house. And he said, he direct messaged me and said, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." Until I got to your neighborhood and your node, I was not able to get out. And of course, he was using one of the stock antennas, probably one of the little, snub-nosed ones on the green device, or maybe one of the, that whip one on the white one, or one of these. This one has a 3 dBi gain, not much. So he's not going to be able to hear too much. I've got, I'm up on the top of my roof with the external high gain antenna, omnidirectional. So he was able to get out through my node and off to the rest of the world through me. So that's yes. So that's a example of your question. There it is. Martin and then Eric. Yeah, field day. Yeah, I even tried to do field day too with it. Yeah. Yes. So the comment was that yes. So Martin was saying that when he took a node down to field day, it was dead quiet. You know, that area, there's no one there. He couldn't get out. And I had actually tried to do field day with it as well. So it's a one hop. So it was a direct connection. So that would count for field day credit. And because it's not a repeater then. And no one heard me either because no one else was, you know, playing on that on field day, I guess. But and then flying over, you know, flying in up in the air, I get a lot of messages on the general thing from, hey, this is a flight LAX 4321, you know, from SFO to LAX. All right, so people fly over, they get lots and lots of nodes because they're way up high. Height is king, just like with ham radio and HF. So hopefully that answers that question there. Eric? Yes. So the question is are the encrypted networks and the non-encrypted networks, do they play well with each other basically, or are they mutually exclusive? And the answer is they are mutually exclusive. Once you check that box in your ham radio operator and the encryption goes away, you cannot talk to the rest of the mesh, period. It's not smart enough it cannot route unencrypted nodes. So that's part of the reason that none of the hams say they're a ham on this thing is because they want to be able to access the rest of the network. For example, I have my KI6BTY TAC channel on there, right? I don't have to be in range of my other station. I had my home unit in, you know, Thousand Oaks by the library. I was at a property I had listed in Santa Rosa Valley. I was able to connect across all the mountains and everything because I could get out to other stations on the general mesh network and relay that traffic. If I had been using the ham radio mode, I would not have been able to do that. I would have had to be basically pure line of sight. Yes. Thank you. Yeah, so there's a question of gentlemen set up several nodes around Thousand Oaks, and it comes up with an error every once in a while that the public key is not accepted. And I was wondering what that's attributed to. My Off the top of my head, my answer is going to be those nodes are pre 2.5 version firmware. So, and version 2.5, they changed the public key, private key infrastructure of how all that. So techie stuff, right? Basically, encryption works with two keys. You have the private key, which only you know, and the public key, which other people that you put out to other people. You publish publicly. People who want to send you a message use that key to encrypt their message to you. You then have your private key. You decrypt that message so that only you can read it. That's the short, you know, 100 class level of encryption there. So in 2.5 firmware version 2.5 for Meshtastic, they changed how that works. And so a lot of times you'll see the yellow lock on certain nodes. That means that they're running a pre 2.5 firmware version. So that gets back into the outdated nodes issue of those people are not going to be able to relay messages or all the messages that other more updated nodes post 2.5 can relay. So firmware updates, I would say at least once a week with minor revisions. There's a lot of developers on this. So there's two development branches. There's the alpha releases. Those are the bleeding edge. Those are or hemorrhaging edge really. Those are the new features. The bug fixes are still in there more than not. The beta releases are what they call their stable releases, which from a IT software background, that's just wrong. But I've been shot down with my request for them to fix that multiple times. But so those are more stable releases with fewer bugs, or most of the bugs squashed. So those ones get released, I'd say probably once a month or once every month and a half or so is my guess. Yeah. So hopefully that answers your question there. Yes. Yeah. Not as regular as I probably should, but I do go in. I follow on the Discord channel basically, just like store from Image Thursday, right? So Chuck. So the question was that ArdenNet has a way to remotely download the latest firmware through the network to a node, and does Meshtastic have that? No, Meshtastic the nodes are usually updated only through direct connection. So I have to plug my node in for 90% of the nodes. You have to plug in directly, and the Meshberry, you have to give it a three-finger salute when you're turning it on to get into a certain mode to even be readable by your computer. And so those ones cannot be upgraded, and the packages, the actual firmware versions are just too large to do over the 1 kilobit per second speed. But some of the newer nodes and some of the more advanced ones that are sold out there, they can be updated through Bluetooth. So you can have it on your phone, go to the node from 30 feet away, or with the ones with the fancy antennas even further, and be in your car somewhere and update your node as you're driving through. So, yes, so Eric in back. How are unique addresses allocated? So I like the. Do you mean like the names or? Okay, right. Yeah. So the question is basically, how do you know who to talk to, or how do you name your nodes? There's no convention. Again, the wild, wild west, right? So I have mine for the most part as my call sign, -1, -2, -3, 4, 5, or BTY, 1 through 5. I took down 4 because I didn't want to have my call sign broadcasting that I'm not in Thousand Oaks when I'm in Chula Vista, or traveling for work. So that one has a different name on it. But people have emojis. There are cat pictures, alien pictures. One guy's a coffee cup. I don't know who that is, but yeah, people have the guy who's Rob's equivalent down in San Diego, who climbs the towers. All of his nodes take after a video game that became a meme in the early 2000s. All your base are belong to us. So his are all your base are belong to Chula Vista. All your base are belong to Pacoima, like whatever city the node is in. So that's his naming convention, AYBO, you know, AYBOC. And he usually has the alien logo on his, and that's actually what he makes cavity filters for these things so they can go next to your megawatt radio traffic towers, and the guy's really involved. So hopefully that answers the question, that there is no naming convention. No, not that I've seen. So I haven't tried, but Martin. Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right. So Martin was saying that the devices have hex addresses, like our networks, our computers have MAC addresses, uh, and these are hexadecimal addresses that are unique, but the names themselves. So that's how it routes to the different ones through those the machine addresses. But as far as like how do I know which one I want to connect to, that's through the name. And as far as I know, the names do not have any duplicate checking on them. And he's mentioning that, like my Meshberry, his Heltex, which are also the green ones floating around, those can be put on the Wi-Fi network, and those are a lot easier to update if the board allows Wi-Fi, updates over Wi-Fi, which none of mine do. But those are easier to do there. And again, I use that for my VPN to connect in and access my niche. I could access it from here, yeah, or from Chula Vista or wherever, and have two different conversations going. Johnny? Oh, yeah.
Guys, have any more questions? Brian, break. Sure, he's happy to answer them. Around the phone.
Thank you all. Thank you. This is